Hey everyone, so I am super excited about making this video today because today I'm going to ask our resident HHN expert everything that I've always wanted to know about Halloween Horror Nights, because I've never actually been to it. And so if you've never been to Halloween Horror Nights, then this is a great opportunity to learn from somebody that goes every year and just enjoys this whole thing.
I finally convinced him to go, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I was thinking, but anyways, we're going to learn a little bit more about this. So let's get into the questions.
All right, so what is question number one?
Okay, so my first question is, are there any safe areas that I can go to while I'm at Halloween Horror Nights? A place where I'm not gonna get scared, a place where I can breathe and relax a little bit if I feel overwhelmed.
Yes, the answer to that question is definitely yes. There are several places throughout the park that you can go if you don't want to feel scared. So almost all of the restaurants that I've been to do not have scare actors in them. The stores don't have scare actors in them. And there are areas in between each scare zone that I would consider safe zones as well. So there are plenty of spaces that you can go in. Restroom, there's no scare actors in the restroom. So there's plenty of spaces that you can go to feel safe.
Now there is one thing I've heard about Horror Nights, and that's the Death Eaters are going to come this year into Diagon Alley. So wasn't that normally a safe zone in the past?
Yes, Diagon Alley typically was a safe zone. It was not a scare zone. So I'm not exactly sure what to expect there, but I don't think it's going to be overwhelming in there. We'll see though.
That's good to know. So restrooms, restaurants, shops, and then just areas like maybe bridges and stuff where you don't want anyone like falling into the water or something like that. But rest assured, there are safe areas to go at Halloween Horror Nights.
For sure. All right, what is question number two?
So my second question is there a particular, see, I'm not big on the houses themselves, but is there a certain house that a newbie like me could go to that I could handle? Like, is there always like a house that's not as scary as, like, say, I don't know, was it The Last of Us that's gonna be there, or Stranger Things? Like, is there a house that's like, you know, like just silly that I can go into?
Yeah, so I think typically, I feel like Universal typically has like, well, in my brain, I categorize the houses. So you have your like original houses, and then you have your houses that are based off of films and things like that. And I feel like within those, a lot of times there's just like a silly one, like just a fun house. I know that Stranger Things is probably one of the biggest houses they're gonna have this year, but I don't think it's going to be like terrifying. I know when I went last year, or the last time they had the Stranger Things house, for me, I was like so into the props, so into the design of how they made the house. Like, there's definitely jump scares, but it's not. Because
this one's going to feature Vecna, and it's just like, okay, like, you might get scared by him a little bit, but other than that, it's going to be more for like fans who just enjoy like seeing them, you know, people float and headphone references and everything like that. And
Correct. I'm trying to think of some of the more like silly ones I've been in.
Like, there's one with clowns, right? That they've had in the past?
Yeah, they've had some clown houses. They've had some that really just feel like fun houses that are more like trippy than anything else. I remember a few years back they had the Krampus house, which is like the Krampus is like a twisted Christmas thing, and it wasn't scary. So they always have at least one that you can kind of just count on going in, and it's just silly, I guess.
All right, so my third question for Revae is, how aggressive are the scare actors? And I mean this in the sense, like, if you get super scared and they can tell that you're hyperventilating or something, are they gonna leave you alone, or are they gonna keep egging it on? Like, do they ever break character to, you know, like, what am I getting ready to deal with?
Okay, so one, they're never gonna touch you. Scare actors are never going to touch you at Universal Studios. So you don't have to worry about being shaken or anything weird like that.
Good.
Usually my experience is that their scares are very short and brief. So if you're walking through the fog and you're in a crowd, they're gonna come up and say something. A lot of times they have rattlers, something that makes noise to kind of startle you, and then they're on to the next person.
And chainsaws, right?
They do have chainsaws. There's no chains on them. But they do have chainsaws that are, again, it's just like a noisemaker, so it startles you more than anything else. I've never seen a scare actor like chase someone for an extended period of time. Once they kind of get their initial scare, they're typically on to the next person. So if you were truly terrified, they maybe would break character to check on you if they really thought something was wrong, but I've never seen that. Actually, funny story, I think this may have been like the first time that I went when I was in, goodness, it had to have been middle school with some of my cousins, and I was not very into like horror films or scary movies or anything like that. And a scare actor ran up to us, and I actually dropped down to the ground in a ball. And I remember the scare actor breaking character and being like, "Oh my gosh, is she okay?" And then once I was fine, he went on. But so they're caring.
So that's the trick. Drop into a ball, and then you can enjoy your whole night. Just drop into a ball. Do it in the houses too. Promise. Free express passes, right?
Oh my gosh. Question number 4.
All right. So my next question 4. Is it, so if you're gonna take in the haunted houses and stuff, is it worth getting the express passes or the frequent visitor passes? I know they also have like a VIP one where you can see during the day, and just based on your experiences, I mean, because those are expensive. Some of those starting well north of $200 in some cases, right? Depending on the day you go. So are those worth it, or should you just stand in line for an hour and a half to experience a house?
Okay, great question. So I think it depends on a few things. It depends on how far you're coming. So if you're coming from out of state and this is like your only time in Orlando, and you know that this is your only time being able to experience Halloween Horror Nights, and you want to do it all, you want to do the food, you want to do the shows, and you want to do the houses and all the scare zones, then personally, I'd say yes. It is definitely worth the express pass. So that you can experience all that HHN has to offer in, the short amount of time that you have. But if you're someone who's local, you're Florida resident, maybe you have the annual pass and you think you might be coming back a couple times, then, maybe you could get away without having it, as if you're strategic about which houses you're gonna go in when you come into the house first. So I think you have options. I know for me, I feel like as I get older, it is much more difficult for me to be on my feet consistently for hours and hours and hours and hours. It definitely gets a little bit harder every year. So standing in lines for hour and a half, 2 hours can get tough. I know by the end of the night. Pro tip, wear tennis shoes. Wear tennis shoes. But yeah, by the end of the night, my feet are so sore, my legs are so tired just from standing and all the lines and walking. So personally, I think it's worth it. It is, a little bit pricey, but if you're trying to do everything in one night, I think you should do it.
Good, that's great information.
Question number 5.
All right, so this question has to do with when's the best time to actually go to Halloween Horror Nights. And I don't mean by day necessarily, but like what time of day? Should you go right when the event starts? Or should you go in the middle of the night? And what are the advantages of doing either?
Okay, so I think there's definitely a crowd at the beginning. When the gates first open, there's typically a lot of people at the gate. If you want to see the opening ceremonies, which are really cool, then you kind of have to get there early to be right up against the gate to see the intro and see all the scare actors there. I actually haven't been there early enough to see that up close, but we have seen a lot of YouTube videos of it and it looks pretty cool. So if that's something that you're interested in experiencing, then you definitely will have to be there, I guess, at least an hour to an hour and a half before the event starting. I think the other advantage to getting there when the gates open is that you can kind of beat, I guess, the rush when you're trying to get to some of those major houses. Typically Stranger Things is right there in the front when you first walk into the park, and that's where most people dart. So that line tends to get long quickly.
So should guests be like going towards the back of the park, like when it opens, and kind of, because you know how Minions is like right up front, people kind of hit that ride first, just because it's there. So you're saying that kind of thing's gonna happen with the houses?
I think so. Yeah, if you're willing to wait and you know you're gonna be there till almost closing hours, then it may be worth it to go to the very back and work your way up to the front. Or maybe start with some of the smaller, lesser known houses and then save the bigger ones for the end. Or you could do the opposite. If you're up front and you catch that whole opening ceremonies and you're ahead of the crowd, then you can beeline it to that, the bigger top 3 houses of the year. So you got options, but you definitely should plan before going in. Question number 6.
How hard is it to find the houses? Like, are they hidden? Are there some that are easy to walk past and you don't know their houses, or what's going on with that?
Universal does a very good job of having the signage out, so I've never not been able to find a house. There's not a whole lot, like, I guess, directing you, like arrows pointing to where the next house is, but no, I haven't had any issues finding houses. They have a little sign up, and it has the wait time and everything right outside the entrance for the house. So you've got definitely one on the left when you walk in. As you follow the park around, if you go straight down that main avenue when you first go in with Minions and stuff on each side, and you keep going past Rock and Roller Coaster, I think there's an entrance there near where Rock and Roller Coaster is. If you keep going straight, like you're gonna make that right to go to Mummies, I think there's 1 or 2 back there. So if you just kind of follow the loop of the park, you'll see all 10 of the houses.
Now, is there a map of them as well?
They do.
Like the custom park map and sort of thing?
They probably have paper maps, but I think most people just use the app. So.
Just use that app. Yes, if you're not using the Universal app, definitely check it out. It tells you wait times, everything right there, and it just really speeds up the whole process. So
for sure. Question number 7.
So if you're like me, you love theme park food or just enjoying every single treat that you can get your hands on, then you probably wonder, like, what are the top things, like the staples of Halloween Horror Nights? Is there something that you get every single year, or places you like to visit, restaurants that someone who hasn't been before needs to go check out?
Okay, for me personally, one of my Halloween Horror Nights favorites is the Twisted Taters. It is basically a potato that's kind of sliced and it's swirled on a skewer and it's fried. They actually have one that has a hot dog in the middle. So it's the hot dog on the skewer with the potato twisted around. I've seen a lot of people get those. I haven't tried that yet, but seems to be a fan favorite. And then they also have different seasonings you can put on the potatoes. So that, again, that's my personal favorite. I know another big hit at Halloween Horror Nights is the pizza fries. Pan of fries with pizza toppings on top. They've got the cheese, they've got the marinara or the pizza sauce and the pepperonis and stuff on top. That is a classic. So those are probably the top 2 biggest ones that I know of. I'm sure there's others out there, but
and they pretty much have those every year. Those main ones.
Every year, yeah.
Yeah.
There were some really interesting, like, specialty items that they had last year. They have it. I guess it was technically like a Rice Krispie treat, but they made it look like packaged ground beef. I can't remember what it was called.
That doesn't sound appetizing at all.
It didn't look appetizing at all, but people were eating it, and
then they have some that have like names like one was not blood and guts, but one was like,
yeah, some of them are themed
like flies and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I stick to the traditional Twisted Taters and stuff like that. A lot of the other restaurants that are typically open are still open during Halloween Horror Nights. I think one of my favorite little Easter egg things that they do is they take the Mel's Drive-In and remove some of the fluorescent lights off of it so that it smells dye-in. They're just little cute things like that. And, you know, they have their traditional menu items in there as well. So.
Cool. And now, are you able to still mobile order these items like you do during the park day, or is it like, hey, we're just going to take whatever the line is? Or...
I'm pretty sure the mobile is still an option.
Good, good. I guess this is just another follow-up question to that, but should I expect to get scared while waiting in line outside for some of these food items?
I've never been scared while in line at a kiosk, like at a food kiosk, no.
So restaurants inside are safe, but if you're outside, maybe.
Yeah, I have not been scared in an outdoor restaurant or kiosk.
I feel like that's like when you're the most vulnerable, like to get scared.
Right. Well, again, I mean, they want their money and they don't want to scare their guests off from spending money, so I don't think they're gonna.
It's like, do I earn $10 or do I scare my guests?
Right. Or if they spill their beer because they're running, like, then you gotta try to.
But that's what we signed up for, right?
But yeah, I think you're safe while you're buying your food. All right, question number 8.
So we know that Halloween Horror Nights has great food. We know you're gonna get scared. We know about the houses. But how are the shows? Because I know they have some stages and they do some live performances and some skits and also have some music too, right?
Correct. They typically have 2 major shows each year and they're both incredible. So you can expect to see great choreography, like really, really good dancers, clean choreography, typically pretty good music. A lot of pyro and fire and things like that, lighting effects. You know, it's Universal Studios, so they're going to be great with that. But they're really good shows. Sometimes they have more of a storyline than other years, but they're always very entertaining. It's a great place to go just to kind of rest your feet, eat a snack, and enjoy good entertainment.
I got a question. So are the shows like in a stadium, kind of like the ones they don't really use, like the Fear Factor area and
Correct.
stuff? So you're not going to get scared in that stadium. You're
exactly.
On the way into it, maybe, right?
So you kind of have to pass through a scare zone, and then I think going into that area, you're okay. I'm not sure with the whole Death Eater situation, if they're going to be out in that area or not, but typically it's pretty safe. They also have, depending on the scare zone, sometimes they will have a main stage area where they'll be kind of occasionally putting on a show that's related to the theme of that scare zone. So you'll have a platform with all the props and decorations around it, and you'll have some actors on stage, you know, again, depending on what the theme is. I know when they had the Purge year, or they've done Purge a few times, but sometimes in that scare zone, they'll have the more presidential looking Purge people with their masks, and they're catching people are purging, so it's kind of cool. It's like a mini show within the scare zone. So yeah, but 2 major shows that you can expect, and they're always great.
Awesome.
Number 9.
All right, so she's just too many questions for her. So my next question is, how are the crowds? Like, is it easy to get around the park if it's super crowded? Does that make the experience worse, or is that actually a good thing?
So I think it depends on what time of the year you go. I think you probably can expect the opening weekend to be maybe a bit crowded. I don't know that I've ever been on the opening night, but I'd imagine that first night you're gonna have a lot of people there just to kind of see what it's about. Maybe a lot of media there just to, you know, check out the houses and the scare zones and things like that. But I think for the most part in September, you probably aren't going to see like intense crowds to the point where you can't, you know, enjoy yourself throughout the scare zones. I think there are probably some key weekends in October, especially the closer you get to Halloween, where it's gonna be pretty packed. Obviously weeknights are probably a lot thinner of a crowd than on weekends, things like that. But I think if you were wanting a light crowd, maybe think about September. If you're wanting more of a lively crowd, a lot more people there, then definitely probably October. But generally when I've gone, I've been able to walk through the scare zones, and it's not like you're bumping into people and scooting past. Like there's room to there's room to get around, and there's room to kind of see what's going on around you. I will say the lines like the queues for waiting on the houses are typically pretty tight. They're yeah, they're tight.
All right, good. Last question.
Question number 10.
So I'm not somebody, like, I love scary movies, but I don't really like a lot of gory things and guts and all that kind of stuff. So should I expect to see a lot of that at Halloween Horror Nights? And is this maybe just in the houses and not with the scare actors, or is it a bit of both?
That's a good question. So I feel like for the scare actors themselves, they do have some pretty good, like, what do they call it? Prosthetics that they wear, and makeup and things like that. And I feel like at most you might see some fake blood and things like that, but it's nothing I'd say that's overly gory. In the scare zones, that I've seen some of their props that have like mannequins and things like that might be a little bit more on the gory side if they're like skewered or, you know, stabbed or something weird like that.
But they clearly like look fake though.
Yeah, it's not like spewing or anything weird. In the houses, I'd probably say it's along the same lines. Like, they're clearly props and mannequins and dolls and things like that. But they do a really good job of making it look real, but it's nothing that I've like felt nauseous from looking at or anything like that. So
that's good, because I'm gonna be eating a lot of food, and last thing I want to do is cough it all up, and I know you don't want to do that either. So that's good to hear.
Nothing too gross. Yeah, you'll be okay. The final question.
All right, so my last question is, and then anyone that's new to Halloween Horror Nights is gonna have this: what should I bring and what should I not bring with me to the parks?
Like I said earlier, definitely tennis shoes. It's a long night of being on your feet, so for sure bring tennis shoes. Other things, I think I've been to probably Halloween Horror Nights about 3 times when it's rained. And I'd have to go back and look through pictures and things to see what time of the year it was. I want to say those were closer to September when it rained, so maybe think about bringing a rain jacket so that what they call ponchos, so that the rain doesn't kind of ruin your night. They're not going to shut the park down if it rains. They might bring some of the scare actors in from the scare zones, but the houses are going to keep going, so.
And you can hide under the poncho. Just kind of where you're going through the house, hide. That's really what she has it for.
Other things that you should bring. I think a bag is okay. I wouldn't come with anything very bulky or heavy because, again, you're going to be on your feet all night. But if you have a light drawstring bag or pockets that have zips in them where you can keep your credit cards or IDs and things in, you definitely want to bring that. But I typically try to go with very little, just so I'm not having to carry stuff all night.
Awesome.
Bags are nice too if you do decide to get a souvenir cup. Like, I typically go with a group of friends, so a few of us have bags that we'll put our souvenir cups in so that we're not having to hold it through the house, and then we'll get them back out when we're done. So again, I think a bag might be helpful, but I wouldn't go trying to carry too much stuff in. Alright guys, hopefully you found this video helpful to prepare you for Halloween Horror Nights 2023. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share, and we will see you in the fog.